all you hot messes. We are back for another week on the Hot Mess Teacher Express. I am Jess, Choo Choo.
And I am Vinny, aka Mr. Thomas English, aka that British guy.
That's simple enough for me.
Right.
Okay.
I'm now wondering if there's actually someone under the name that British guy that's like, that's me.
Actually,
like, oh, sorry.
You're going to get sued. I am that British guy.
Elmo's gonna sue.
Hot take this week. We're going to be talking about Teacher of the Year.
Oh.
Teacher of the Year. The award Teacher of the Year. What's your hot take on this one?
So I just want to clarify, did you have Teacher of the Year at your school or Teacher of the Year in your district?
I think it was in our district, and I think the state level was more where it was, celebrated.
Yeah. So basically, like the first school I was at, we did things where you basically had Teacher of the Year, but then you'd have Rookie of the Year, and you'd also have Support Staff of the Year.
Everyone gets an award.
Everyone gets an award, and yet no one gets an award. So I remember in my first year of teaching, right, I came in, I was from a different country, had never taught before apart from my student teaching, came over to the US, did not understand the US curriculum at all, because who does?
Right.
And literally had to learn it, building a plane as I was flying.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I'm going to tell you now, when I was in England, I had some experience with IEPs, and we call students that are on IEPs in England, we call it's SEN. So it's special educational need instead of IEP.
Okay.
But it's the same thing basically. So my experience was in my British schools, I had maybe one or two students that were SEN. And that was my experience. So when I went into my school, they were like, IEP. And I was like, okay, then let me look. And I looked through because I had a bunch of case managers coming to visit me, giving me lists of all the students on their caseload.
Right.
And going through things. And I was like, okay. I looked through. I had 36 IEP students out of 150. I had one class, I only had one junior class, and in that class I had 42 students.
Okay.
I did not have enough desks. I had 42 students teaching juniors, and I was mainly a freshman teacher with just the one junior class. And in that class I had 8 IEP students on top of another 4 504 students on top of an oversized class.
Oh,
and I remember being just going into, and that was my first period of the day. I loved them. That was such a great class.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is a lot. The paperwork that I'm seeing is so overwhelming.
Yeah.
And then it's across all my other classes, same thing. I had every single class had a minimum of 5, 6, 7 IEP students where it's I have to make accommodations, I have to do all this stuff. And I had classes where I didn't have parapros either, where it was just me. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing.
One person.
I'm drowning. I'm struggling every day. And I remember there was one month, because how it would also be is we were in an inclusive district, but inclusive means we're going to put them in a gen ed, which is going to be English. So the only general education classroom they would be in would be English, which then means when you have an IEP meeting, you have to have one gen ed teacher present.
Yeah.
And
guess what?
It was only me. So I remember there was one month where I had 14 meetings for IEPs, 504s, METs in 1 month. And it was there was days where it was one meeting before school, one meeting during lunch, one meeting after school. And to the point where I was I'm a new teacher. And this was in the 2nd month of me starting, where I still didn't have a clue what I was doing. I was still struggling beyond belief.
Yeah.
And I remember having all of this and being how am I supposed to do this? And every single day just being no, I just need to try my best. I want to show up. I don't want to be one of those teachers that's well, I don't want to go to the meeting if I don't have to go.
Right.
So I would go to them because at that point as well, when it would fall on my month, because my school did it where they were each department has a month and that's when you have to go. But I was also the only gen ed teacher, so that was not
Every
a
month
privilege
was
that
your
I
month.
felt. So it's like I went to all of these meetings, and then even the ones I didn't have to do, I was like, well, at this point, I've been to 75% of the meetings, so I feel like I'm doing a disservice by not going to the other 25. So I would go, and like all the time, I was constantly like, trying to adapt things. I was trying to learn a new curriculum. I was dealing with all of these like things that I had no idea of. I was like, what's a MET? What's a 504? What's an IEP? All of this. And then I remember how Rookie of the Year worked is you could be nominated by staff, but you could also be nominated by students. And I remember this was like a whole district thing. And I was really like, oh my gosh, like I got nominated. I had a list.
You got nominated?
I had 14 nominations from students and teachers. I had like 2 or 3 teachers nominating me, being like, literally, all of the things were really sweet, being like, you have literally came here from a different country. You are like a new teacher, you know, you're relatively young. You've had like all of these odds against you because you had no idea what you were signing up for.
Right.
And it was basically like in the district, the school had the reputation of being the IEP school, where it wasn't the official like adaptive school that they had, but it was where unofficially they were like, oh, they have a great like case managers there. They have a great like sped department there.
Right.
So that's where the other middle schools would recommend parents sending their child for secondary school or high school.
Got you.
So
Okay.
it's like within the district, it's like all the politics of it basically. Whereas like, I didn't know that when I got hired. Like,
You were just like, I have a job.
I'm just like, oh, I'm an English teacher. And
Someone
I'm like,
chose me.
I think I'm technically like, am I like? And I remember just being so overwhelmed. So like, I saw all these things. And they were really nice. There were things like, you know, like you came in and you show up every day. You've worked so tirelessly. You've supported so many of your, like, your IEP students, your 504 students. Like you've done all of this.
One.
This is where I get pissed. So, I will never say that. Like, so this is what annoys me with it. I got nominated. And how it works is if you are nominated, you get shortlisted. And then you get selected from that list, you get an interview. And then from that interview, you may get Rookie of the Year.
Who did
I never even got selected for an interview. And the reason I stand by, I think this is the reason why, is because someone at my school got Rookie of the Year previously. Like in the last 1 or 2 years. And to make it fair, you don't want the same school to get that prize. So then that's where I look into it as, is this actually going to people that deserve it? Or is this going to the politics of, oh, well, we haven't given it to that school in a while, so maybe they deserve it. Or this department, you know, we had an English teacher get it last year, so we don't want to give it to English again.
Yeah.
And I really feel like that is something that is so bled into this.
Yeah.
And then I remember I was sat there because I used to go to NTI, so I know some of the other Rookies of the Year. And this woman, I remember this clear as day. When we were at the ceremony, because we all had to go, it was mandated, I had to go there and watch who got this. Literally, because it was like the whole district does it and they do like Teacher of the Year, Rookie of the Year, the whole thing. It's a whole celebration of the corruption. So I'm literally there and I'll never forget a woman that got it. She was, I don't know if I can, she was the biggest kiss ass I have ever met in my life. At the NTI training, she's going to like the presenter. Oh, I've got a resource for you. I'll use my resource. Literally, I have never seen someone so far up someone's crevice. Like she was there. She was like painting the walls with her tongue. She was like licking it good and proper. And I'm like, I wonder how you got that. Because the person that's in charge of selecting the Rookie of the Year, conveniently, you've had an lobotomy. Your nose is right up there. So it's very interesting to me that you got it because you're the one that's saying, oh yeah, when I see you at the next week's training, I'll bring you this. Oh, do you want donuts? Yeah, I bet you want donuts. Yeah. So I look at it and I'm like, there is so much in teaching when it comes to these awards where it is more based on who you know and how you kiss up to the right people than it is about your actual ability in the classroom.
Wow.
I am very passionate about it because
this like bled into grind my gears a little bit.
Well, and I will never forget how defeated and deflated I felt. Like I am someone that like I don't win awards. Like I'm not like a first prize.
You're not motivated?
Person.
Are you like motivated?
I'm motivated, but I'm never picked. Like you know, like it's just not me, and it's fine. That's my role in life, and I'm good with that. It like I can make a comedy segment about it and laugh about it and share my pain. But it's like I remember just feeling so like demotivated and defeated by that, by being like, I worked my absolute arse off and I got nothing.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then you look at the people that got it and you're like, but are you really good, or is it because you just you try and you put on the show for the right people? And I think that's what so much of it is. The people that are actually some of the best teachers, they are so focused on their students in their class that that's where their energy goes. They don't care about kissing up to admin. They don't care about, oh, the ball's here, so let me just fluff my peacock feathers and put on a show. Like, it's all about impressing the right people instead of doing the best at your job. Right. And that's why, to me,
the people who should be recognized are the ones that are doing it quietly. Yeah. And without the peacocking, if you will. I think you're absolutely right. I think that it's a nice idea, Teacher of the Year, and I think it's a nice thing to strive for. As someone who is motivated to win and be the best and beat everyone, I feel this, but at the same time, it's like that comparison game, and I am someone who compares myself to other people, and it's debilitating, and it's not a healthy place to be, especially in a job that burns out as many people as it does, is to sit there and like compare. Well, she got it. Like, I know for a fact that I'm doing more than her or him. And how do I get recognized?
And then you have that whole issue of like, then you start to like look back and you're like, oh, if there's a certain person at your site that got it. But like, say for instance, like if there's someone in your team that you know stays there every night at 7 p.m. has done so much for like students that have had like really like traumatic backgrounds and have done all of this, and like they work their absolute like butt off every single day. And then you see it go to someone else, so you're like, I don't even know what they do. All I know is that every single time admin's here, they're on their A game. They're like putting on the whole show.
Right. And it's what are we recognizing? I think that would be the question that I would have. What are we recognizing? Are we recognizing toxic behavior, or are we, recognizing the people who are actually doing the work?
And it is so much more rare to have everyone be really happy with who got it.
Oh my gosh, that's so true.
For people to be pissed off.
Yeah.
Because that, like, I remember every time it's announced, why did they get it? So-and-so deserved it. So-and-so's been here for 8 years and they've not got it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what it is. It's like, there is so much toxicity that comes from it that I don't think it's worth it.
Right.
Like, because all it does is it makes everyone compare, and it makes the people that were like nominated or put forward that didn't get interviewed or didn't get whatever, makes them feel like, oh, well, I must have done a crap job the whole year.
Right.
Because, you may have the certificate saying you've been nominated, but oh, well.
Do you know where your certificate is?
It's hanging on my wall. It's hanging
by
on
Taylor Swift.
I've
Why
got
you gotta
two
be
of
so
them
mean?
because I was also nominated for Teacher of the Year the next year, and they didn't interview me that time either.
That's a whole other story. Okay.
Always the nominated, never the award. But it's right next to my YouTube silver plaque, so I'm like, that's better anyway. As a reminder of where I've came.
Wow. How you've grown, Vinny. So glad to see it. You're not bitter at all about anything.
Now my gold play button is on the way. So I'm like, it's going to be shining. It's like, I'm going to be like Taylor Swift all bejeweled. I can make the whole world shimmer.
People are turning off this podcast. What a pretentious prick. Okay. This week for Hot or Not, do you want to explain what this segment is if you're new here?
So this week for Hot or Not is a section where we go over one thing that's hot in education and one thing that's not. As a reminder, for something to be hot, that means it's good, and for something to be not, that means it's not good. Please send any questions to someone else.
Okay, let's go over something that is, let's go not. Let's start with not.
Okay, the not this week. This is a big not from me. Jean passes.
Why?
I can't just let teachers wear jeans. Like, what is the issue?
Oh, you're saying that we should not have to have a pass for them.
I'm sorry, but if you are going to turn around to a teacher and say, oh, can you volunteer to do this and I'll give you a jeans pass? No, pay them, If they are giving up their extra time, so you can be like, oh, going to wave my jean wand over. I'm sorry, but no, you need to fix that. So jean passes or not. Instead, maybe, a Starbucks gift card, maybe even cheeky Chipotle, a little bit of Chili's,
Or just cash.
Yeah, slip me a $10 bill and I might be interested.
Oh, yes.
Maybe 20. My rates have gone up, inflation.
I am somebody who loves a good jeans pass. I would participate in the icebreakers if there was a jeans pass involved.
The only issue with this is I got to a point where I discovered sweatpants that look like professional pants, and I just wore them. My whole last year of teaching, I just wore sweatpants. No one noticed. I'm like, at this point,
that was me with leggings. If I put on a long enough sweater or shirt, I'm like, no one knows.
At this point, they are just so worried that they have a teacher showing up.
Right.
I think the jeans are the least of their worries.
They're like, oh, you have pants on. Excellent.
So yeah, I think jeans pass, I'm like, if you're going to be like, oh, you can only wear jeans, you can only be effective when I give you this magical pass, I'm sorry, but just let jeans all year round.
Yeah.
At that point, you're just being ridiculous.
Yeah. If you're going around collecting jeans passes, it's a sad life for you.
I had a jeans pass and never once gave it to someone. I was just like, oh, just in case.
Oh, I have a jeans pass. I'll give it to you later. All right. What's hot this week?
Hot this week is movie days.
Oh.
I love a movie day.
I do too. Did you ever choose content so that you could purposely show?
I would literally, whenever I would choose a text for a quarter, I would be like, is there a movie? Is it an appropriate movie? And do I have access to stream this movie and share it with my kids? And if it ticked all boxes, it was absolutely. But if there was one that had multiple movie adaptations that ticked all those boxes, you best believe I was
then you could do a little
teaching it.
compare and contrast project.
Stunning.
Stunning. 10 out of 10.
I just think, and this is the thing, it goes with the best way to teach is to think about the needs of your students and what they are interested in. You learn more from finding something interesting than you don't. If I'm reading a book and I'm just not involved in it, I'll just be reading it, nothing will go in. Whereas if I'm like, oh, I really like what this book is about, I'm more likely to be like invested and read it. And I think, especially like teaching ELA high schoolers, I was always like, okay, like the best way to do this is look at different media forms. So it's like if I was teaching Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I'd be like, okay, we're going to start off by looking at the Look What You Made Me Do Taylor Swift video where she has several different versions of herself and look into the language literature device that is, so that we can then look into like duality and like the doppelganger and how that then links to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by like using something that is in these students like common knowledge that they could be engaged with, like whether you love her or whether you don't, and then being able to actually like critically evaluate and assess that.
That was a little free English project that you're just giving away.
I used to love it because then you can rewatch this 4-minute video and you can stop, be like, right, character 1, who's that? Character 2, who's that? And then you can look at like the different eras from her discography and apply it. I know it's a hot take where a lot of like the old school teachers are like, why is Taylor Swift so common in the like ELA classroom? But it's like, she is trending. She is massive. Like people in education, students love her or they don't.
Right.
And even if they don't, they have an opinion.
Absolutely.
And having an opinion, even if it's a negative one, is better than having nothing.
Right.
It is better to be like, I hate this or I love this than it is to be, this bores me, I don't care.
Well, because your kids are going to sit there and whether they love or hate Taylor Swift, and this is not about Taylor Swift because she's a queen.
And I love her.
But if your kids love or hate her, they're going to defend that position. And that's like a whole other skill set. And you're like, I've tricked you.
And then, when you have these students that are like, oh, I don't like her, I don't know her music. When you're going through and you're analysing, you're like, look at all the Easter eggs. Look at how much of a mastermind, little Easter egg, she was right there and how she like absolutely articulated all of this stuff. Yeah. And then they're like, wow, like that's actually really like smart how she was able to do that. Right. And it's like just doing something like that. That's with like a short clip. So then when you're then looking through it and you're like, okay, are there any modern adaptations of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? Can I show a certain movie? And can we compare and contrast?
Right.
And like that's when I would get it where like if I'm watching a movie version of a text that I've taught, I get students turn around to me like when I was teaching and they would say like, oh, that didn't happen in the text. And they would like, because they've read it and they've engaged with it.
That was one of my favorite parts.
And it's like, to me, I'm like, that's what's important because there's so many adaptations of things like on Netflix, TV shows, movies, even plays and like musicals where it's based on a text, but they never knew it was. And then when you go through it and you teach it, they're like, wow, that's actually amazing.
Right. And it teaches them different ways to think about things too.
Yeah.
And like, let's look at something from this person's point of view. Like, I mean, like The Wizard of Oz, you have the musical Wicked. Like that's from a totally different perspective than what The Wizard of Oz was originally written and, taught. So I love that.
Yeah,
love
so
good
movies,
movie day.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. We definitely went over that a bit too much, but that's fine.
It was Taylor's problem. Now it's time for U.S.
versus UK.
And this week we're going to be talking. I can't believe that this is a topic that we're going to be talking about, but bathroom passes.
Yeah,
they're different. Bathroom passes in America are given out. I feel like it's a classroom to classroom thing, and they're given out almost as a privilege. It's a privilege to go to the bathroom, and it's you must be trusted with a pass in order to go relieve yourself as a student. I personally did not give out bathroom passes because they're disgusting, and I'm not going to sit here and monitor your bathroom usage. But bathroom passes are a huge thing.
Oh yeah, here.
I have never seen people get so passionate. Teachers get so passionate about bathroom passes and how they monitor their students' bathroom usage.
And did you ever experience teachers here that would do where they're like, they print out, this is a slip for you to go to the bathroom. You have 2 of them per semester. And if you don't use them, you get extra credit. Like trying to incentivize students.
Not going to the bathroom?
Yeah.
That's how you get UTIs. No.
I'm like, that is how, like, I remember when I went to my first school, it was a whole thing. And I remember just being sat there being like,
That's not real.
I remember being like, I don't even know how to take attendance. And you are trying to get me to learn how this works. I'm like, I don't care if someone goes for a leak in the middle of my lesson as long as I don't piss on the floor. I do not care. Like, so I remember just being so like mind blown by the whole thing and just how passionate American teachers are about not wanting their kids to go to the bathroom. Like, what?
Right. Yeah.
But
and how is it in the UK?
So in the UK, obviously every school's different. But in my experience, if a student would say to me, can I go to the bathroom? I just go. We would have like hallway monitors and stuff, like patrolling the areas, like security.
Oh.
So it's like if they were in it for long enough, like you would know, like, and the only way in and out of the school, like here schools are really open. Like there's multiple exits to get out.
Right.
Versus in England, there is one exit and that gate is locked. You need a code to like enter to get in. So it's like, where are they going to go? Like,
wow.
They're going to linger around. They're going to be found. They're going to be sent to the office or they're going to be sent back to my classroom.
Yeah.
But that would basically be it, where you would just say, yeah, if you need to go, you go. But then I also think I prefer how it works in England in terms of like breaks, because how we do it is you have a morning break that's probably about 15 to 20 minutes.
Tea time, if you will.
Yeah, tea time break. And then you have your lunch break that's like later in the day. So you'd basically do like 2 periods break, 2 periods lunch, or depending, you may have an A-B lunch and it could flip. And then you'd have 2 periods home. Or like you do 1 period home, depending if you're like a 5, 6, 7 period school, it can change. But that's basically how it would be, is like you'd have...
there's plenty of time to go to the bathroom, to do your business.
Exactly. Instead of having this awkward, you have one lunch in the middle of the day and sometimes it can shift. And now you have 3-4 hours where you can't have a break because you're running from one side of school to the other and you got a teacher being like, you need to get in, bell work, get going. Like, and yeah, I know that there are some schools in England that are a little bit more strict with this, especially like if you've just came back from break and you're like, I need to use the restroom. They're like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Like, and there may be like issues like that.
Yeah.
But then it's like, I feel like 9 times out of 10, I would just be like, yeah, you can go, but I'd only let you go like once in a lesson.
Yeah.
And that's basically the same mentality that I would have in an American classroom.
Right.
And like you'd get other American teachers being like, oh, well, your issue is you let students go to the bathroom whenever you want. That's not an expectation. And I'd be like, yeah, but if I'm sat in a lesson, if I'm in a PD and I need to piss, I ain't focusing on anything that's going on in that PD. I'm focusing on not pissing myself.
Yeah.
And I'm like, as a human, I feel like my student is feeling the exact same way when I'm forcing them to hold it in.
Yeah. Or the bathroom passes that that teachers give out, and they're so obnoxious that it's almost like a shameful thing to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Like, I had someone who legit handed out like this huge wooden, it looked like a giant cutting board, and they would make the students bring this into the bathroom with them.
So it's like basically shaming them.
Like shaming them. Like, and second of all, okay, I'm just gonna say it. Elementary boys aren't that great at going to the bathroom without splashing everywhere.
Yeah.
And what do you think is on that giant bathroom pass?
A little bit of pee-pee.
Little bit of pee-pee. Yeah. And maybe something else too. Who knows? But no. Yeah. Do not bring that back into my classroom.
Yeah, I just think, but then I also believe...
Or hand it off to someone else. Your little pee-pee paddle.
I also think it bleeds into the fact, though, that, like, the expectations in American schools, like, I'm sorry to say this, but they're not as rigid. They're not as structured. It's like... And they do it so much in American schools where it's like each teacher, especially in high school, can have completely different policies.
Oh, that's so true. And yeah, that's confusing for kids.
You know, here's the recommendation, but here, and it's like you can go to history and they're like, oh, there's no way she's going to let me go. Then you go to English, oh, yeah, I'm allowed to go. Oh, no, I'm in, no. And it's like all of this back and forth. And it's like, I would be confused.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then it's like at the same time, like, I'm not going to bend and break and be like, oh, well, they're stern as anything. They're period 1 teachers. So I'm not going to change my teaching because someone's told me how to teach.
Right.
And that's very much like what I believe it is. I think it's just a whole like hot mess. But I just think, I don't understand why it's such a massive thing here.
Yeah.
And like, I get that there's like more, like in my experience, there are more concerns with things like, you know, the vape pens and like going to the bathrooms and doing inappropriate things. Absolutely.
Can students abuse the power? Yeah. You know, like the responsibility of going to the bathroom.
I definitely think that is more of a problem here in the US from what I see, based on my experience in the UK.
Okay.
But it goes back with that education thing where it's like, it goes back to that expectation thing where I think, you know, to put it nicely, like the way the curriculum and the education system here is set up, these students are bored and they don't understand what's going on half the time because it is so unstructured and there's just all of this random stuff being thrown at them left, right and centre and they've not had the time to recover from the pandemic either because it's like, you got to do this test so we can see and it's just mindless testing for no reason and because of that they're just getting bored and they're trying to find other things that they can do to distract themselves and they're getting in trouble for it because at the end of the day, oh well, if I get caught with a jewel, it's fine, I'll be back at school next week anyway.
That's true.
Because there's no expectation in place. There's no like authority in place and they're just walking all over educators and that's why the teachers are getting burnt out too versus because England is because like the UK is so much more structured and rigid, like it's harsh in places but at least your kids are coming in and you can let them go to the bathroom without being like...
There's expectations and they know those expectations and they want to meet those expectations. Time for my favorite section, grind my gears, where we get 30 seconds to rant about something that makes us really, really angry. All right, go for it.
Okay, Jess, so your topic for this week is people that are not aware of their surroundings.
This is the most annoying thing to me, where people cannot look around them, see people who are there, who are trying to get their jobs done or do other things. And you are just so focused on yourself that you cannot see someone else's problems or issues or what they're trying to do. And also, you know what really makes me mad is when there's trash on the floor and people just walk right by it. Pick it up. That's not a big deal. All right, Vinny, as the TikTok star that you are, your topic this week is people who say, Wow, I did not expect that last video to go viral.
Oh, you didn't expect it to go viral, you know, when you were crying in your car and you were saying something really controversial, or, you know, the fact that you said this illicit story about how you interestingly got fired, or how someone cheated on you with your cousin's sister's niece. Oh, I wouldn't expect that to go viral at all. And not to mention, is it really viral? It got 10,000 views. Your idea of virality is on a different level, because I'm like, I didn't realize you were Britney Broski all of a sudden when no one knows who you are because no one cares, and this will be your only claim to fame to exist. I thought that was stunning. That was just
so much anger.
One.
I know.
And I think people are going to really love that.
I think so too, Vinny. Again, you're saying things that I feel like a lot of people are thinking. So that's wonderful.
I needed to say that. I'm so sorry.
Do you feel better?
I'm like,
do you feel free
I
as a bird?
never in my whole TikTok, YouTube, whatever career, Instagrammer, you know, you name it, I have never once turned around to anyone and been like, oh my gosh, my video went viral. I'll say, oh yeah, I had a video get X amount of views, or oh, I had a video do really well. But I will never say it went viral. Like, to me, that's gross. Like, I don't know what it is. It sounds braggy, and I'm just like, I don't like braggers. I would rather be a little bit more humble, personally.
Oh, really? Okay. We're going to end this episode on highlighting the underdogs of education, people who don't get a lot of recognition. And that week, And this week, we are going to highlight student teachers. We love a student teacher. I know it's like really, really ominous and depressing out there with a lot of the stuff that you're seeing online from other teachers. But believe me that you can make teaching your own thing, and it doesn't have to be someone else's experience. This is your experience and what you want it to be. So,
and just like we've always said, don't compare yourself to others, ever. I remember I would have some people on my student teaching program that would be living the dream, have all their lessons made for them, and literally like their mentor would do everything. And then I was like, I am drowning while you are literally thriving.
Yeah.
So just know that it does get better. And I know we said it on a previous episode, but if you are student teaching and you don't like your school, you don't like your placement, I swear it gets better. Sometimes it's just finding the right fit.
Yeah, and you have that choice. You don't have to be anywhere because like you're an adult and you have that choice.
And it sucks, but sometimes you have to get through the crap to get to the diamond.
Oh. All right. On that note, I feel like we've got through the crap and we're now at the diamond.
I know. We can make
this episode.
We can make the whole place shimmer.
Please make sure that you're following us on all social media channels: YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, the Hot Mess Teacher Express. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
Choo, choo, choo.
Oh, you added a chew.
Oh, triple chews. 3 for 1 special.